And this is the third part, completion documents, very important. It's a list of all the original documents required to effect the transfer from us to you, by law. That includes the original title deed, original copy of the title deed, includes spousal affidavits for spousal consents, includes passport photos, includes identification documents and PIN certificates, includes signed transfer documents. When you do a transfer of property, there's actually a form called a transfer form containing the details and images of both parties, the details of the transaction in terms of value.
And that document is given by the by the county government?
No, that document has been prepared by the Ministry of Lands in a particular format. And most lawyers will have it. They will prepare it. Both parties have to sign it. In your case, it's more important that I have signed than you, because you can sign it whenever you want, but I have to sign it. We also tend to ask for certified copies of the mutation form for the property.
That's the whole subdivision and
the
all
subdivision scheme and how we produce that piece of land. So the other document we have to include in the completion documents is called the registry index map. It has to be a certified copy, or the RIM or the RIM. The reason we include that as a requirement in the completion documents, very important in your sale agreement, is because now going forward, as the country digitizes the title deeds under the unified system, that registry index map is more important than your actual title deed. I've done an episode about this before, including with Caroline Mutoko, where we explained the import of that. But people can also visit Ardhi Sasa, which is the Ministry of Lands online portal, to understand the process. Because if they call upon you to get your title deed digitized at some point in the near future, hopefully, they will require you to bring your original title deed, your identification documents, your ID, PIN certificate, just as we do when we're buying, and the registry index map.
So somebody who's hearing about RIM for the first time, what is this?
So all that parcel of land known as the Republic of Kenya and its sovereign boundaries is mapped, and it's mapped by grid systems and regions and locations. And these, in their smallest form, are called registry index maps, right? Anything smaller than that would have to be a deed plan or a mutation form. A deed plan and a mutation form are the same thing for the different title tenures. Deed plans will generally be for leasehold titles, and mutation forms are generally for agricultural, freehold type of titles and properties. Now, what the government is doing with the digitization process is getting rid of deed plans and mutation forms as reference documents on properties. They are unifying the new title deed regime by cross-referencing with a registry index map, because the registry index map will contain your property clearly illustrated on it, along with the neighboring parcels or blocks of land for a larger area.
That's so cool, though.
So yeah, absolutely.
That's to our advantages as landowners.
Because if your property has a title deed, but for some reason is not indicated or illustrated clearly on the registry index map or the RIM, or AKA the RIM, then there's a chance that you might have paid for thin air, because the RIM is what proves that the piece of land in its shape and dimensions exist within the boundaries of Kenya as part of its landmass.
Okay.
That makes sense, right? This is why that document is extremely important. In fact, in my view, and I'll say it here, in terms of order of priority, the most important document in any property transaction is a green card. Green card. Now, the green cards also have white cards associated with them, but green card is sufficient. Number two, most important, is your registry index map, and then your title deed comes in third. Right? So you want to make sure that as part of your completion documents that we have to provide you, before you finish your transaction by paying us a balance or releasing your balance from escrow to us includes a registry index map.
Whew.
Yeah.
Okay, so during a site visit, I presume that I should do as a land buyer, always go and visit your parcel of land.
Yes.
Do I need to ask them for this RIM?
Absolutely. If they don't have the RIM, they need to get that thing sorted out before we get to the point of payments, or I walk away. It's a point of no negotiation for me. So if the property is not indicated on the registry index map they show you, or they don't have the registry index map, it could mean one of two things. Number one, the property is legit, it's clean and everything, but for whatever reason, the surveyor who handled its production did not complete the process after the title deed was produced, and have the registry index map amended to include that parcel of land clearly indicated or illustrated. If that's the case, then you can require them to have that completed before you make payment. Right? If someone's unwilling to do that, it's not worth the risk, because you could be paying for thin air. Just because it has a title deed doesn't mean jack. And I can't stress that enough. I've talked about it. I know it sounds alarming sometimes, but it's a fact. Your title deed is quite literally the most useless document in that chain of documents I just called the completion documents, because it's simply a token representing a set of documents, many of which are in the back office at the registry that you don't have access to. So if the RIM is not indicating my property, either they didn't complete the process, in which case they can and should, or the property literally does not exist within the boundaries of Kenya. So I walk away.
And
it's
have
that
you
simple.
seen this happen? Have you seen instances where a title deed is actually useless?
Absolutely. Happens all the time, all day long, every day, probably. You know, it's sad, but this is a reality. People are generally impatient around any services requiring government involvement, because the government can be slow in its service delivery. I mean, in essence, it's the largest corporate we have to deal with. They manage a lot and there's inefficiencies, that's a fact. But that should not excuse you skipping a step or paying a bribe to skip a step for the sake of getting to your end zone. You have to make sure all these documents are in place, or else you could be getting conned. And this has to do with the seller's attitude and energy when you're transacting with them. If a seller will put pressure on you to complete without some of these critical documents in place, that is unreasonable, then you just have to take a second look or walk away. I mean, it's that simple. It's not worth the risk. If you have any respect for the money you have saved and put together or borrowed and compounded from other people, you cannot skip a single step in that process.
Okay, so I've got this document, I've paid my deposit. I've paid my deposit before. When should I've paid my deposit. We've entered the sale agreement.
Yep.
All these documents have been gathered. You're telling me this process, if the titles were created, should normally take 45 days. What is happening at that time from the person who I'm buying a parcel of land? What are they doing at this time?